Bruchim haboim, welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Gimel Amud Beis, 8 lines from the bottom. The Gemara continues a discussion about the legality of a person's hand when it is extended into another Rishus. Abaye says, certainly when a person is standing in the Rishus HaRabim and his hand is extended into the Rishus HaYochid, certainly that hand does not have the same status where the body is in the Rishus HaRabim. And similarly, when a person is standing in the Rishus HaYochid and he extends his hand out into the Rishus HaRabim, certainly his hand doesn't have the same status where the body is in the Rishus HaYochid. And that's because we see in our Mishnah, because when an Ani is standing in the Rishus HaRabim and he extends his hand out into the Rishus HaYochid, when the Balabayis picks up, makes an akira of, let's say, bread, and he puts it into the hands of the Ani, we don't say that Balabayis did a malacha of hoitzah by being oiker from Rishus HaYochid and now being meiniach, making hanacha into the Rishus HaRabim. So therefore, certainly the hand of the Ani does not have the status of a Rishus HaRabim. So what is the status of such an extended hand? So the Gemara brought a brisa that says that when a person has fruit in his hand and he extends, let's say he's standing in the Rishus HaYochid and he extends that hand into the Rishus HaRabim. So there's one brisa that says that he must keep it there throughout Shabbos, and it's prohibited for him to bring it back into the Rishus HaYochid where he's standing, because the Chacham made a knas, they penalized him. Whereas another brisa says that he's allowed to bring it back. So the Gemara explains what is the machlokis in this between these two brisos. The Gemara suggested that it's a machlokis as when did he extend his hand. If he extended his hand mi ba'oid yoim, while it was still daylight on Erev Shabbos, then we penalize him, because why did he not retract his hand before Shabbos? So the Chacham gave him a penalty, and now he must remain holding his hand out for the entire Shabbos. Whereas if he extended his hand out during Shabbos, after Chashecha, after nightfall, so the Chacham did not give him a penalty, and he's allowed to then retract his hand and bring it back into Rishus HaYochid on Shabbos. The Gemara then said that this will be poishet the following shaila that Rav Bibi bar Abaye had. What was the question that he had? He had the following question: when a person put dough into a tanur, into an oven, on the walls of the oven, they used to bake the dough in that way. They would put it on the walls of the oven, and he inadvertently put the dough in the walls of the oven, not knowing that it was Shabbos, or not knowing that it was a malacha, and then he realized that it was Shabbos. Can he now retract and take back that dough before it then bakes, which would cause him to be over an Isser De'araisa of Afiyah on Shabbos? So according to this that we just said, and according to these brises that we said, that if a person did this, he put the dough in inadvertently, so then if that person did so we would say that even though he would be prevented from doing a malacha de'araisa of Afiyah, here the Chacham did not then allow him to then take out that dough, just like they did not allow him over here, in our case, to retract his hand, even though that would cause him potentially to then be over in chiyuv chatos, because if he would let the object fall, the fruit fall from his hand on Shabbos, that would make a hanacha, and he would be over a chiyuv chatos if he would do so. So we see that the Chacham were not concerned about that potential Isser Deraisa, and therefore they did not let up their Isser Derabanan. Now the Gemara says, Ibois Eima, the Gemara suggests, La'olam lo tifshoit. Really do not be poishet the shaila that we just mentioned before of Rav Bibi ben Abaye, that regards to then taking out the dough from the oven. And it's not difficult to explain the two brisos that we had before, that one says you can not retract the hand, whereas the other one says you can, yes, retract the hand. Kan b'shoige, kan b'mezid, where it says that a person can not retract the hand. That's talking about when it's bemazid. He put out his hand purposely. Where it says that he can retract his hand and bring it back into the Rishus HaYachid where he's standing, that's talking about when he did it inadvertently b'shogeg. B'shogeg loy kansuha rabbanan, b'mezid kansu rabbanan. If he did it b'shogeg, they did not penalize him. If they did it b'mezid, then they would penalize him and he would have to keep his hand there throughout Shabbos. V'ibois ema idi v'idi b'shogeg. Alternatively, you can say that both brises are talking about b'shoigeg, when he put out his hand inadvertently. And here the Bryce are arguing about whether we give him a knas of shoigeg atu mezid. Mar saver kansoi shoigeg atu mezid. Umar saver lo kansoi shoigeg atu mezid. One Bryce says that you make a knas of shoigeg atu mezid. Why? Because if we allow him to then bring back his hand now, then when a person does it b'mezid, he'll claim that he did it b'shoigeg. So therefore, we'll make a knas even when somebody does it b'shoigeg inadvertently, as not to then come on to that situation when he gets out of it by saying he did it inadvertently when he really did it b'mezid. Whereas the other one says, no, we're not concerned about such a thing, and therefore we don't make a knas of shoigeg atu mezid. V'ibois ema. Alternatively, you can say, La'olam lo'kansoi v'lo kasha. Really, there's no knas at all. And it's not difficult to explain the brises where one brise says that it's osir for him to retract his hand, and the other brise says that it's mutter for him to retract his hand on Shabbos. Because kan la'oisa chotzer, kan la'chotzer acheres. The difference is because the brisa that says that he can, yes, retract his hand is talking about when he retracts his hand into the same chotzer where he's standing in. Whereas the other brisa that says that it's prohibited for him to retract his hand is talking about for him to put his hand into another chotzer. In other words, and then put the fruit into the other chotzer. Kideboy mine Rava me Rav Nachman, like that which Rava asked Rav Nachman. If a person's hand has fruit in them, and he then takes them outside, he extends his hand outside, what's the din? Can he return it back to his own chotzer? Mutter, he said, indeed, he can do so. Can he then take that fruit that he had extended his hand out and then put it into somebody else's chotzer? Amalei osir. He said to him, osir, you cannot do that. Asks Rava from Rav Nachman, umayshna, what's the difference? Why, when it comes to bringing it back to his own chotzer, it's mutter, but putting it into somebody else's chotzer, it is osir? Answers Rav Nachman, lechu telchu Allah kura de milcha. He says to him, when you measure me, jokingly, when you measure me a kur, a certain measurement of melach, of salt, then I'll answer your question. Meaning to say, there's no similarity at all. Hasam lo is avida machshavtoi, hacha is avida machshavtoi. Over there, when he brings it back to his own chotzer, he did not then do anything that his machshava wanted him to do. In other words, he just simply retracted it back to the same place that he originally took out the peiros from. So he didn't really do anything. Whereas in the case where he puts it in somebody else's chotzer, so then he's able to then relieve the space wherever he wanted to then take away those fruits from and put into somebody else's chotzer. So then he was able to be then misabed then his machshava. So certainly that he said it's going to be osir. Says the Gemara, Gufa, Boy Rav Bivi bar Abaye Hidbik Pas Betanur Hitiru loy lirdoisa koidem sheyavo lidei chiyuv chatos or loy hitiru. This brings back the statement that we had mentioned before, that Rabbi Ivi bar Abaye asked the following question: when a person he puts dough on the walls of the oven inadvertently, he doesn't realize that it's Shabbos, or he doesn't realize that it is a malacha. It's a problem to do so. And then he asks, can a person then retract? Can he take away that dough from that oven or not? So that was the statement, that was the question that he had. Omar le Rav Acha bar Abaye le Ravina. Heichi dami. Let's analyze, let us understand what is the question that he is discussing now. What is the case? Ilema b'shoigeg v'lo idkarlei. If you want to say that he inadvertently, again, b'shogeg means one of two things. Either means that he didn't realize that it is Shabbos, or he didn't realize that it's an Isser to do this. And then he didn't remember that it was Asr, either again that it was Shabbos or that it was Asr to do. So leman hetiro, to whom are the Chachamim going to then matir? In other words, he never would then realize that there's a question to be asked. So who would they then matir? Who would they tell that this is mutter or not to? Ve'elo lav di ahadure v'itka. Rather, must say that he did remember afterwards, after he initially put the dough into the oven. Then he realized that it was indeed Shabbos, or that it was Osir. So on that, the Gemara asks, Mi mechayiv? Would he be chayiv echatas, like he's asking about? Vehatnan, kol chayiv echatos, einam chayavin, ad shetehei tchilasen shigaga, v'soifen shigaga. In order to be chayiv a korban chatos, a person has to then do the act b'shoigeg, inadvertently from the beginning to the end. That means that's the first initially not know that it's Shabbos or not know that it's Asr, and then after doing the act, still not know that it's Shabbos and that it's Asr. So how can you be chayiv a korban chatos? Elo, you must say b'mezid. You must say that he put the dough purposely, with intention. Koydem sheyavo lidei iser skila miboile. Ask the Gemara, if that's the case, then the situation is different. It's not like Rabbi bar Abaye asked Hidbik Be'abatanur Hitiru lo l'radoiso Kodem sheyavo lidei chiyuv chatas. Actually, you should say Kodem sheyavo lidei chiyuv skila. And it doesn't say that in his question. So it can't be meaning that he did so b'mezid, because mezid would chayiv a chiyuv, an onesh of skila. Amarav Shila la'oilam b'shogeg. So you have to say he put the dough on the walls of the oven b'shogeg. Ulaman hitiru, and to whom did the Chachamim come to then matir? And that was the question Rabbi bar Abaye. Le'acherim, to other people who then subsequently saw that he did so b'shogeg, and then went to the Chachamim to ask, can we go ahead and take out the dough from the tanur, from the oven? And even though there's normally an Isser D'Rabbanan to do that. Maskif Rav Sheshes asked, V'chi oimrim loy la'odam chata kedei sheyizke chavercho. Do we allow a person to do a chet, even an Isser D'Rabbanan, and then allow the other person to be saved from his Isser, even though the second person is going to be over an Isser D'Oraisa? We have to go back to what we suggested before, that he put the dough inside of the oven b'mezid. And then you have to change the wording of what Rabbi bar Abaye asked, and put it like this: Hid big pas batanur, hitiru la l'radoisa koidem sheyavo lidei chiyuv instead of chiyuv chatos lidei iser skila. That was the question, or lo hitiru. Rav Acha bar Durava masti lo behedya. Rav Acha bar Durava actually taught this nusach explicitly, that it was a nusach of b'mezid, of skila. Rabbi bar Abaye hid big pas betanur hitiru lo lirdoisa koidem sheyavo lidei iser skila. He said, indeed, we're talking about where he did it b'mezid, because the question was, can he take it before skila? By the way, the girsa and the version of Rav Acha bar Durava, who taught this explicitly, that was talking about a iser skila, didn't have it as a question. He says it explicitly as a statement. If a person was hidbik pas betanur, he puts the mezid dough inside of a oven. Hitiru loy lirdoisa. The Chacham allowed him, they permitted him to take out that dough before he would have a chiyuv chatos, a malacha deraisa of afiyah.